Good morning, everyone, and I'm back, Aaron Dishno from WalkTheWeb, and I am 5 days away from releasing 3D Internet, going open source with my 3D Internet WalkTheWeb code, and I'll be dropping that out there on September 30th. So make sure you check us out at walktheweb.tv, and we're going to get started. Let's see, jump down here. Okay, today what I have on the agenda is I'm actually going to be doing some groundwork for setting up being able to do plugins, because plugins is an important part to getting all the developers going and running on the systems. So I'm going to do some groundwork behind the scenes and get all the pieces in place so that we can activate that. The first thing is, since it's mostly dealing with the admin menu, I did remark out the environment so I don't have to load that every time that I do it, and we'll be taking it from there. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is, I already know that I'm going to want its own class, because I don't see any reason for plugins themselves to be running from from any of the existing classes. It's kind of a beast all their own. So I'm going to take one of these simple ones, and I'm going to copy that and create a new page. And we're going to name this, we're going to name it class underscore walktheweb plugins dot php. Okay, now I do know that I called it plugins here, and I'm going to call it plugins in the code, but at the same time the directory we're putting them in is actually called, what did I call it? I can check here in a second. Let me just click save on that so we have it in here. It's actually called components. Components is a longer word, so I'm using plugins because it's shorter. So we're going to first take on this particular page, and I'm going to replace everywhere it says WalkTheWeb menus with WalkTheWeb plugins, and replace all. Okay, then that kind of gives us the structure that we need. This particular one, we're not going to need that function in here, but you know what, I'm not going to delete the function just yet, because it has kind of our framework that we're using on all of our functions. So it's easier if I just kind of leave that in place for a moment until I start writing our first actual process here. Okay, so WalkTheWeb plugins, this is going to be the plugins page. Now, of course, nothing in this system is calling it yet. So we're going to need that pretty much global. So there's a point when we load a couple different processes. Let's see. Let's go check where we're loading different items. That should be in our init session. And in here, we bring in user and we bring in that stuff here. But we don't load the other stuff until it gets down on this checking stuff till right here. Then we bring in DB and users. I think that's a great place to bring in plugins, because if there's any plugin functionality, it would be happening from this point on. So, oops, I seem to be bouncing off many extra keys today. I must have moved my keyboard maybe 1 inch to the right or something, and it's throwing off everything on my game. Like I have a game for typing, right? Okay, so class plugins. Now we've activated the class. Now we can use it where we have it. Now the idea behind this plugins is this is where we're going to put our hooks. It's going to be where we check to see if there's new plugin files in the folder, and if there's anything that needs to be added. It's going to grab us our plugin list for the admin. It's going to do all that kind of functionality right from here. It'll be how we call the plugins and stuff, so it's kind of a way to bring things together on that side. Okay, so before I do anything else in this actual page, we now have the class ready to be used. We don't need that open anymore. The next piece is, I already know that there's going to be some things we do from the plugin, and it's going to go behind the scenes, but yeah, we're going to create its own page for for that. I'm going to take this page as an iframes page just because of its, now it's not as big as some of the other ones. And so we're going to take that. And in this one, we're going to call it plugins. And like I said, this is setting up some of the framework for some of the stuff that we're going to be doing. Class iframes, that's all fine. That's all fine. Okay, and that's the word I'm looking for. And we're going to save that to the iframes directory. Okay, plugins.php. So now we have a plugins file. For now, we're going to keep some of this stuff in place, like those items. They may not all be needed, but for now we're going to leave them there until we don't need them. We'll go back and check some of that stuff afterwards. I'm going to leave one thing here just because it's basically a placeholder for what we're doing, and I'm going to remark it out for now because it doesn't actually belong there, but it gives us, like I said, some framework for doing things. And then we're going to knock out some of this stuff. We don't need most of this stuff in here. This has to do specifically with the buildings, properties, okay. And then I'm going to get rid of everything but one of the buttons. That kind of just strips it down to bare minimum, just so we get, I'm just basically leaving the framework here so that we can easily take off the first time we use this file. So we're almost there. I'm just going to remark out from here to there. Okay, so now this file's, it has its pieces in place. We're going to say update, call that update plugin. And also this plugin name goes there. And I believe that knocked out the core of the functionality of that page. So now we have one set up for plugins. Okay, so from there, we're going to come in here, and the first thing we need to do is we're gonna do a couple little things here. The first one is on our menu, admin menu, we have a point where we're checking to see, let me set up the core pages of the admin menu now. What we're going to do is we have various items in place, tools, settings. Let's see, I'm kind of looking at where they're sitting in the menu. Let's go right before settings, and we're going to create one that's called plugins. And okay, just going through a couple of these settings. Okay, I'm not worried about the icon we give it right now. We'll leave the settings icon there for the moment. And okay, so that kind of gives us our framework. The other thing we're going to want is we're going to want some type of menu item below it. I'm going to take one of these second line items, and this particular one is going to be loaded plugins, or I could say all plugins. All plugins kind of works because it'll show what's there and what isn't. Okay, and we'll just call this all plugins. Okay, and going right through this. Actually, I just did that in the wrong place. We want that to be at this level, and this one is going to be a match for the one above it. We're also going to make that, let's call it row 99, just because it'll be right before settings. Okay. And you know what, actually, I'm going to be friendly to everybody. We're going to call this row 90 so that there's some space in between. If somebody wants to put something that's in between plugins and settings, it'll sort that way. And moving right on through. And that one's going to automatically pull anything based on this. Okay, so that gives us our menu item. The last part is we need to create a section in the menu that adds this page. Okay, what do we have here? We have, that's a very large section. I'm just looking for like our settings page where it calls just the email server. We're going to want one that's, you know what, user page is actually a really good example because right now we haven't done a whole lot with our user page. So that will, that'll make it nice and clean. It's going to give us a basic list right now for users, and we're going to call it, instead of users page, we'll call this plugins page, and plugins, and then all plugins. Now the good news is because I told it to do it this way, it's going to be, we can actually copy the way we did it for the user list. We'll get a plugin list. Okay, so we kind of have the outline of what we're doing. The next piece is where we call this, there's a couple things we need to do. One of them is, okay, cancel that. I'm looking in the wrong directory. This needs to be in that directory. I can tell by how fast it went. It was in the wrong folder. Okay, so when I go here, that's open all users. We're going to be creating one that says open all plugins. We'll do something else with it, but I'm going to, you know what, we're not going to put that there. We're going to put that, I'm going to put it at the bottom of the page for now just because I want to make it easy to get to and easy to relocate as we're working on it. Okay, and this is going to be open all plugins. And like I said, since we already created one similar to this, I'm kind of just using the pattern of what we did with the other one. See, this one says show all plugins was the very first thing it did, and we're going to show plugins page. And of course here there was more to it. Show loading users and hiding the all users. So we want this part of it, and then we're going to do some things, and then we're going to load the stuff after the fact. So we're actually not going to pull this one from JSON because we actually need to check the list from the site using PHP. We're going to be doing some file stuff, which I don't like to expose that through JSON. Okay, so we're going to do it through an iframe page. And if I take these items, go down to the bottom of the page, that we have loading plugins and all plugins and plugin list, plugins list, I think is how I worded it. Let me double check that. Okay, plugins list, let's call it consistently with the word plugins. Because otherwise I'm going to screw that up probably about 100 times. So it's easier if I just make it that way. The next thing is, for now, this is just a temporary thing. I'm going to tell it to show all plugins. That there'll be some code in between here, and then we'll be doing a callback function that actually does the show of plugins. So I'm not going to try to do that piece in place just yet. The next thing is from the users page, we also had loading all users, then we had all users and user list. Okay, so we're good with those pieces for a moment. The next thing is in the menu, we did this piece here. And this one has a callback based on, okay, menu users. Oh, okay, so we need to go to toggle menu level. And okay, we're going to look in this function, and it's going to be section name, and notice it's going to open up the div. We're good with that. We don't have to do anything special there. Okay, so the next piece is in our menus. Oops. We don't need menus open anymore. We have admin menus is where we're working. Okay, so the next part is admin user list, and I'm going to find that. And when it does admin user list, this is where I need to add, okay, from admin user list, then we have, in our version, we have admin all plugins. And so we will take that and open full page form, and instead of users, this will be plugins. And it'll be all plugins. Say we're making full round trip here. Copy file, find in files. And we're making it around. Okay. Going into here, we have that function. It is defined right there. And in this section, we have one that says updates media library import. And there's our user section. And this is when we do something that we need to copy, paste, and it's going to be plugins. And that's why I did one that was very close to what we were doing. Then we're going to be show file page, which is the full page, and then open all plugins. Okay, and now that should get us through opening the page when we got there. Okay, so let's see how we did. Yeah, I don't like leaving extra stuff around when I don't need it. Okay, let's see. Do I have the page up here? No, I don't. Let's get the page and bring this over here. We're going to open just the admin page without trying to open a community because there's no reason to open a community at this time. And I'm going to do an F5, just control F5 and make sure we get a good clean copy of it. And there's our plugins item and all plugins. And when I click it, we loaded the page for plugins. This thing's still blinking here because we haven't told it to not blink yet. So, okay, we've gotten that far, just like we did with users. We have all users. See how it brings up that page. We're now doing plugins, and we have all plugins. Okay, so drop this in here. The next thing is on this page, like I said, we put it at the bottom of the page because I really didn't want to have to fetch it. So, okay, and what I'm going to do is I am copying this type of a function call, and we're going to drop this in here because this function, what we're going to do is we are going to retrieve a list from our plugins, and we're going to be asking for a list of all plugins. And so let's go back here. Okay, so let's see. The first thing we need to do is actually, first thing we're going to have is, do we even have any values that I need to pass to it? It's possible. Are we going to need a list of just items that are loaded? No. We just need a list. For now, we just need a full list. So I'm not actually going to pass any values to it. I'm just going to say, let's see, you know what? I am going to back that up. I'm not passing values to it, but Oh no, wait, we do it on the page load, so never mind. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're going to get all plugins. Okay, and that's from our plugins page. And now that should get us here. So let's get our plugins page, and now we have an actual button instead of this one that isn't correct. We're going to set that up. It's going to be get all plugins. And over here, it's going to be that. Like I said, it doesn't take too long to set up the framework once we have all the core pieces in place. So like I said, you copy an existing page, you create a page. It's really straightforward. I've tried to make it as short and clean as we can. Okay, we have plugins, and okay, say plugins, that's the name of the page. The other part is right here. Just to make sure, I don't want any more floating around word building or anything, so let me just see. Okay, we're good to go, and we'll change that to plugins. Now we're returning to its own page on the postback. We have our iframe and by value, which are parts of our function stuff. Okay, oops. Get all plugins. Need it to be there, and missed it by a line. It's this line. Okay, so get all plugins, and then we're going to tell it what function to go to when it does its return trip. Notice get all plugins is up here. So we've pretty much created the full round trip process. This also takes care of it for you. Makes it run this only on the postback so that we get the page back after it's been submitted. And up here, there's nothing else I'm going to input, but what I am going to pass is we are going to create one field. We're going to take this one just because it's similar to what we're doing. And this one is going to be plugins, real straightforward. And we're going to call that plugins here. Okay, and there is no max length on that because we're returning it, so it's not something somebody's putting into this, it's something we're taking back out. And then we'll add plugins equals blank, and here it's going to be plugins equal, and then it's going to be some process that we're going to pull from iframes, and then it's going to be whatever it's going to be called. We're going to leave that for a second. We'll get to that one in a minute. I just want to do the return trip, and this particular piece, when we come back, the one thing we're going to grab is we're going to grab those plugins. Oh yeah, it is Z plugins. Okay, so I was able to keep that Z plugins the whole time. Okay, we have this, and we're going to put that right here, and we only need the one value back. Okay, and then what we're going to call this plugins, we just need a little bit of framework here. And it's going to be called plugins complete. I use the word complete just to let me know that it's completed a round trip back from the iframe, so we have some type of thing here. We're going to take this here, and we're now going to say the loading plugins piece, we're going to tell it to hide, just so we know we got back here. And also this is going to be results that we're getting through here. Or actually, I like calling it response. response. That's what we're expecting from there, and then we're going to do something with it. Okay, so from there we have this name, and we add that back to our plugins page, and there we go. So now we've made the complete trip. For now, just to test it, let's remark that out for a second, and I'm just going to say, kind of like hello world idea, we're just putting the word hello there, and on this end of it, I'm going to tell it to log this response. So we just created the loop, and I've created a way to test to see if it's all the way back from the other end of it. And now let's go here. Okay, and admin plugins, all plugins, and the response came back with hello. So we made the complete loop through our iframes page, came back, and we got our response. So that's a good sign. So now the next part is, okay, the next piece is we need to plan more of what that response is going to be, which means on our page here, we're going to now create iframes plugins, get all plugins. Okay, now this process, notice I set it on the iframes page. When I'm on an iframes page, I like to call everything to the iframes page, but in this particular, actually, we don't want to do that. We don't want to create more on the iframes page than we need. When we post back, notice I've told it to go to buildings in this case, so we're going to go to plugins, and we've actually loaded our plugins here. So now we're dealing directly with that plugins file, and that's where we're going to have this particular item. Okay, so get all plugins is the name of our function that we want to create, and now we jump to our plugins class, and that's what we're going to call this guy, and we're going to clean it up. So now we have the basis for doing this. This is going to be, what am I going to response with? The response is actually going to be a string value that is actually JSON data. That's the plan. Okay, so someplace we've done something similar. Right now, we need to get a list of files based on a folder on the site. Now, instead of me digging up, doing this from scratch, I've already done something similar than that. It's in the uploads folder. No, actually, it's going to be in the my uploads. What I do here is, no, actually, I am not checking for site data there. Okay, never mind. We're gonna keep working with our plugin folder, and let's see, where did I do something similar, because I don't want to have to write the code from scratch. Okay, so let's see, we have, in this part, what I'm actually going to do here is I need to look and see what's in the folder, and I need to pull back the contents. I want to use some of my variables that I've already created, which means in here, I'm checking for, okay. I'm trying to think of the place where I did something similar. I don't want to write this from scratch, but I think what I'm going to do is there's a section here, right here, where, okay, so yeah, I'm setting a file path equals content path and add something to it. Okay, let's start with something similar than that. Let's just write this from scratch. Okay, so we take a path like this. Okay, so we have the content, and then we're going to go into, what do I call it again? I should just keep that expanded. Components. Components directory, and I'm going to look for anything that's underneath that. So if this file exists, okay, we're going to create, actually the rate, this is going to be an array value. %i equals 0, and if we're going to say if file exists, kind of like what we did here. Well, if it's blah, 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 blah. That isn't what I'm doing. Okay, no problem. Get out of there. It's in this uploads. I've done so many things like this. If file exists and I'm looking at the folder path, I'm not going to create the folder, but helps if I don't put another if around an if statement. Copy more than expected. Okay. And if it exists, and that's file path, then we're going to do something with it. Else, we're going to go ahead and create that directory. We just want to make sure that it always exists, and I don't want to, I want to make sure people know where to put the files and do different things. So we're just going to say make directory file path, so that we're sure that it exists the next time, and no matter what, it will always be there. Okay, so looking in that folder, next thing we need to do is iterate through the files that are in that folder. So we're going to bring back, I believe it's a directory info is what we need to bring back. I don't think I've done something similar too often. Okay, let's do this the easy way. One of the same bring back. Retrieve folder list. Get all subdirectories in a given directory. And here we go. Directories equals global is directory. Print directories. Okay. I don't need that. I need get all subdirectories of given directory, current directory, or parent directory. No, I don't want that one. Directories equals some path global, global only directory. No. For each directory is file info, directory. Now we're looking at something similar to what I need. Okay, we'll grab that. Let's see. And coming back to here. And we're going to give this a shot. We have the file path. And we're bringing back a directory as file info. File info is directory. And not is dot, which is good. Okay, file info, get file name. And we're going to actually build our response. And, well, actually it should be, yeah, let's just do I equals file directory name. And we don't need the BR after that. And then we're going to increment, after that we'll do, because that's when we're doing it, $i plus equals 1. I know I could do I plus plus, does the same thing. There's always many ways to do things. And then what we're going to do is, at the end here, we'll do, actually we don't need it there, we just need it here, which is going to be, it would be JSON, JSON, come on, spell JSON, encode Actually, it's, yeah, JSON encode and that. So now we should be returning JSON with that. Then we should be able to, on our page here, z-response equals JSON, whoops, capitals, JSON dot parse, and then it's going to be this z-response again, and then if z-response is not equal null, or I could have checked it the first place, we should put that on the outside of that. If it's not null that we've come back with, then we know we brought something back, and now we do that. If how about we do a for var I equals 0, I less than z response dot length and I plus plus. There we go. And for each one of these, we're going to tell it, for now, we're just going to tell it z-response. Oops, I forgot I copied that. Let's see, we just need, if z-response I is not null for whatever reason, we're just double checking their data. We have this field here, so we're going to say plugin list var plugins list. I'll be consistent, and we'll call it z plugins list equals blank, and it helps if don't put two equals, and then z plugins list plus equals, and we're going to say z response. You know what, just because we just created it, let's fix it now. Let's call this, because we may pass back different directory information later on, so let's first pass back just the folder name is the field we're going to bring back, and we're going to say response folder name equals then that value there, get file name. So we have some type of format to the data that we're returning, and we called it directory. Just because I did it, we're going to call it z folder instead of directory. And file info, we're going to call it z file info just for consistency on all of our naming. Okay, so that should get us the data back as folder name, and now we can go folder name here and plus, and we're going to give it a line break for now just so that we get anything that's there. Let's see how we did. And page isn't working, so we broke it. I'm sure I missed something. Let's see what it is. Unexpected equals line 33 in our plugins. Okay. Line 33 in our plugin file. Line 33. Oh, what am I thinking? That's not the notation. We need to plugin I equals array and folder name. This is kind of what I should have done in the first place, so pardon me for it's a I don't even know what day it is. Every day's a Monday if you don't know what day it is. So it's a Wednesday. Here we go. Okay, so basically I'm sending back the array this way, and that will give us the data the way we expect it. And let's see, we're loading something. And plugins, all plugins. we're going to get a list of directories. Nope, we get an error, which will do the same thing again. Let's see how close I was. Close that off and look here again. Okay, trying to get property of non-object in there, plugins on line 28. Okay, so property of, oh, well, we did global content path. That should automatically load that one. Why didn't it like my path? Let me think about that one. Syntax error. Okay, that was from the last time, so we're good on that one. Trying to get property of non-object in class line 28. Undefined variable S error text. The class is not defined yet, which means I can't run. No, this piece needs to be loaded about that time. I'm wondering in the order that I loaded things, because I may not have the WalkTheWeb class loaded yet when this particular thing happens. Well, actually, it should be loaded. Yes, because we're doing this, we're even calling it from the WalkTheWeb class, so that doesn't make sense. Well, actually, let's see what variable content path. We have WalkTheWeb loaded, we have that, and this is the error that we're getting, which means, see, this is, okay, so content path, which is right here, gets loaded right here, which is part of the check host file, which gets loaded first before we ever do check database, which is the file that we put. Actually, we're in it right here. So check database is right here, and the loading of this file that we're doing is right here. So we should have everything we need by the time that gets loaded. I don't know why this is having an issue. Okay, but see, we don't need to load that again because that's already loaded. Oh, wait. Yep, I see the error in my ways. We don't have that loaded because we're in the, this is being called not from WTW, it is being called from the WTW iframes page, and that would be the class where we're going to inherit that particular piece. Okay, that would make a big difference in running the code. So let's clear our error here. Of course, everything after that died because that died. So let's clear the error and run the page again. Admin, plugins, and all plugins. We have the page pop up, but nothing for data. Okay, what's going on? There's a new error. Let's see what it did. Warning, file exists. Why did it have that issue? That file exists. Okay, it already had the file. See, what I'm dealing with is this folder here. Let me see. We're getting components, but content path should be all the way to it. Content directory, components. We should be looking at a file list of here. The only other possibility is if I'm, well, let's double check our path. Let's spit this out on the page so we know exactly where we're getting, and then we'll double check if the iframes is loading the content path correctly. I believe it is because we've used it in the uploads folder and other directories. So I think, therefore I am. No. Okay, so we're checking the file path would be that whole path. Okay, I want to see this right here and double check what I'm getting. So we're going to echo and console log, and we're going to have it spit out this path equals, and then we're going to have it spit out the file path to our console log. So that should tell us where we're at. Let's see, go back here, and plugins, all plugins, and what we get is invalid, oh, escape sequence, sorry. This should do it. Okay. And plugins, add plugins. Now it didn't like that. Okay. Escape sequence, what we need to do is string replace, and we're going to replace something in there. We're going to replace backslash with 2 backslashes just so we can, I know, let's put a single quote around, I know, I didn't, let me think of this. We are going to escape our escape and replace it with escape escaped. Okay, let's see if we can get it here. Plugins, all plugins, and we got it here. Okay, so we have this path, uploads, content and components. Let's see. Uploads. Okay, so you know what? Let me just copy that path. I'm sorry. Should have copied it while I was here. Copy that. Go to this server, bring up the file, and we're going to do it this way. And that is that directory. So, oh, did I just do something? If not exist. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Like I said, why is it a Monday on a Wednesday? Let's see what we get now. Helps if I don't say if it doesn't exist. Okay, let's go here. Admin, plugins, all plugins, and unexpected end of JSON. Okay. So let's, I've done the JSON encode. Yeah, we've done this on many other files. That shouldn't be an issue. We've done that from our users class. There's times when I look for a list of users, some permissions, or what have you, and I've done the same thing right here. JSON encode the response, which is an array. So that shouldn't be an issue. Okay, so that's JSON encode there. And then once I get that back, I didn't have to do anything else with it. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, when we do this and we're returning something here, what I learned is double quotes. It doesn't like double quotes around the value. If I put single quotes, for some reason, everything plays nice and it works for us. So we're going to give that a shot. I know I had seen that one before. And there we go. Let's see. Come on, where are we getting a list? Let's see what's going on here. Okay, we should get from this plugins, I'm going to say back just to get to this place, and we're going to return something right here. And first thing I'm going to check for is that we're just getting some type of item per string, just so it gives me some type of feedback from there. Then we can determine if it's, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 items there. So we did have 10 different items. And I went to the wrong one. We don't need that one right now. Okay, so then here we should have, well, let me do it this way. I know that I've done it this way before and it likes it better, so Z response, the length. Okay, we're going to check. We're going to do two things. First thing is I'm going to spit out the response here. I want to see that we're getting something back from there. And actually, I don't need anything around it. That should give us a listing of the response. Let's try that. And yes, we are getting a listing. So if that's the case, our problem is not on this end. Actually, did we just? No. Oh, I know what it is. We never assigned it. Okay. Told you it's a Monday on a Wednesday today. So, okay, let's get rid of that there. We don't need it. We don't need that. And we have our list. It generated the folder list. We'll do some more with that in a minute. We'll be back here. But the next piece we need is on this page. I'm going to rearrange these because I keep doing that. Okay, so we've gotten the response and we've created this plugin list, but what I didn't do was assign the plugin list to the actual string. So we're gonna inner HTML equals this, and that is this list right here, and we're going to put that there. That should get it. Let's see how we did. And then plugins, and not yet. What did I miss? Folder name. Did we do folder name? Yes. Okay, plugins list is there. We're adding the items to this. Now let's see. Let me check. We get this value there. Let's see if we get this here. Okay. Because we know we're getting the JSON, so now I want to make sure that we're getting the JSON with the values in it. And let's see. There it is. So that's our list, and we did add each one of those items to Z plugin list. So this must not be showing. Did I tell it to hide it? Yes, I did. Okay, that would explain a lot. And show all plugins and show the plugin list. Let's reverse those two. And it has to do with sizing and what we're loading. Okay, so let's test this out. Admins, plugins, get all plugins, and now we have a list of plugins. Okay, I'm not going to worry about what they have in there yet. We're going to continue to build this list of what we're collecting about the plugins. The first thing we need to do is I'm going to leave that there, because the next thing we're going to do is under here we have the folder name. That's if it's a directory and we get the folder. The next thing we need to do is to check and see if there's a file underneath the folder with the same folder name. So kind of the identity that it wants, and we're gonna help this out by creating one. Let's see, which one should we start with? Let's start with one from scratch, new folder, and I'm gonna call this WalkTheWeb. What do I want to call it? WalkTheWeb. WalkTheWeb multiplayer, because I'm going to move a bunch of stuff into this file after we get done. So, WalkTheWeb multiplayer, and I'm going to create a new file. Let's do it. Well, okay. New text document, and we're going to call it the same name, WalkTheWeb hyphen multiplayer, and then .php. Is the design of this layout kind of looking familiar to anybody? Okay, so then in that file, edit notepad, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to give it a couple values. And we're going to say, first of all, we need it to be PHP. That explains why this should have done it. And okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to say blah, 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 blah. Plugin equals, I don't care if there's spaces around this because we're going to trim the spaces. WalkTheWeb dash multiplayer. We're going to go with a whole bunch of values in here, whatever we decide we need. So we're going to make a handful of different things. But I just want to be able to kind of get to this point. Title equals, or actually this will be like a friendly name, and we'll call the title WalkTheWeb multiplayer expansion. Okay, and author equals, yeah, okay. Okay, we'll add some more things in here. This is where I'm going to start it. We'll build some more things on here once we get the process in place. But what I need to do is, first of all, check to see if this file exists. So we're going to do z file equals, and this is going to be, we're going to want file info, I believe is the name of the piece. File equals, well, actually, if file exists, and we're looking to see that basically this path, which is file path, and then we're adding to that the folder name, the file name, and then well, the file path we need to get this in here, and then the folder name, and then we're going to see if you know what, I'm going to use this more than once, so let's just make that z folder equals this, and now we can just go with z folder. So z folder, and then // dot z folder, and then PHP. Okay, okay, that should check to see if the folder exists, if that file exists, and I only want a list of items that happens on, which currently we only have one file that's doing that, so let's check that part so far. Oh, page isn't working. What I miss? I can see it real quick. Folder, and I missed a parenthesis. There we go. Just working my way through this. Let's see. Come on. Okay. What'd I miss? Oh, why is... That's the array. That's the file folder path. Then I have this going back to there. Folder. Oh, I called it the same name as what that was out there, so killed itself. We're going to say folders on this one, and so now we have something to determine between the two of them. And then we do the folder, because then we have plural and singular, and that would take care of that, or it should, because you can't call it file info and then assign it something else. So plugins, and now we didn't get any. They came back blank. Okay, did we get that spelled all correct? Component. Let's remark out. Let's remark out this for a second, just to see that the file name still comes through. Actually, we should even be able to go folder now and put the word folder here. And let's see if that works. We should get a full list again for all of them, all the folder names. Okay, so we got past that. Now the next piece is let's check the path here. I know I should just keep one of these handy instead of typing this each time. Echo this, and we go script. And then we go console log. Okay, and then we're going to return the file path with all this other goodies in place, which means I have to do that. I have to do this again. String replace. And we're going to replace, oops. And put that in there, and we're going to replace that with that, and now we should get a list of what it's trying to check for. And let's see how we did. Here, plugins. Okay, so we are checking for, oh, there's no .php. Duh. That would explain it. I put a dot before the quote, so I didn't put a dot after the quote. So now, sometimes you just got to see what you're dealing with just so you can make your way out of there. I'm going to leave this on the page for now just because if I need to check something else along the way. And now we do this. And we have multiplayer. So we've gotten the one that we have a PHP file in it. And just so that we're dealing with, well, just so we're dealing with more than one file, I'm going to open up, let's see, well, let's just create a new one. I don't want to mess around with something that I have in here for a reason. Multiplayer, and let's see, what do we call this one? just to do it. I'll call it test. I don't need anything special in this one. We're going to copy that, put it in here, and then change the name to test. I just want to show that there's more than one that we're dealing with, and that we can work with it. So test. Because when I grab these different information, I want to know that I'm getting different things from different files and that it can handle different files. So we'll call that there. And now we should get 2 plugins on the list just by doing that. Okay, so now we have 2 on the list. Okay, from there, what we're going to do is we are now going to read each file and we're going to extract the different information based on it. So I am going to add back to our plugins class, and based on this, we're going to get some more information. We're going to call a different function in here. I want the function to be available whenever I need to read that file, so I need it available more than just right now. Okay, so we're going to create a new function, and this one's going to be public function, and we're going to call this one get plugin, plugin init, plugin PHP. I could call it init, I could call it plugin PHP. Okay, we're just going to call it we'll call it this way so we can get the file. And what we'll do is, okay, from here, we're going to pass in z plugin PHP, which is going to be the name of our file that initiates the whole plugin file. So we want that. We'll return something. It's not going to be that, but we're going to return something. Okay, try catch. And this particular one, it's going to be our response that we return. And our response is going to be an array. And okay, so the other thing is we are going to use possibly both of these classes. I don't know if I need DB class. I think I've got everything wrapped up to not use that. We need iframes, but we do not necessarily need this DB class anywhere in here yet. So I'm going to do that and get rid of that class. We're not using it because the iframes actually has extensions into that class where it needs it. Kind of keeps the iframes pages nice and clean whenever something's called from an iframe. So let's see. Okay, from here we're passing in this file, and now I want to open the file. So we're going to do some, I already did something similar, and I like to, whenever I did something similar, I want to use kind of the same idea. See, what I did was file here and then get the lines from that file. So we're going to do this. Size of. Okay, I did that on purpose because of something I needed to do. I deleted one line and then I added some things to it. This particular one, I don't need. Actually, let's just, all we're going to do is get the lines of this file. And the file is going to be this path. Because we already know the file exists, we could check to see if it exists again, just because, is it folder exists or file exists? Oh, file exists, okay. Okay, file exists. Right now we're checking to see if we have something and make sure. The reason is this can be called from other places other than just where we were. So I'm going to just recheck that it exists, and lines is going to equal that. Then for each lines as z line, I'm going to change it to a z because I like my naming. Whenever it's something internal in a function, I try to put z in front of it just so that if I do a search across stuff, I can tell immediately that it's going to be that. And then right now, all I'm going to do just to do it is I'm going to add to this array each of the lines that we're dealing with. So $i equals 0, and for each we'll do $i plus equals 1. And now we're going to do the response and response $i, response $i equals array And what we're going to put in this array is if string position, if I check string position, if I'm not mistaken, you can do equal sign in the line. What was the, I know I did this just a few minutes ago too. I was working with this with something else. String position when it's not found. What is the, okay. By the way, thank you for doing that, and we're going to thank the person who asked the question too. Okay, we were able to take advantage of it, so I always try to give credit. String position when it's not found, and I think it's just, I think y'all have to, well, is it this one? Let's see, string position is not equal false. That's what I'm looking for, and thank you for that. I was trying to think of the proper way to write it. Okay, so string position line is not equal false. Then I'm going to check for two things in here. I want to know that the equal sign's in that line, and I also want to know that it has some type of comment. Well, okay, you know what? I'm just going to plow through this. We're going to see... let's see, Z, what am I going to call this? Line parts. I'm going to attempt to do this whole thing, and then I'm going to go back and fix the different pieces of it that I messed up. So the first thing we need is the delimiter, which is equal sign, and the last piece is the string that we're working with, which is Z line. And then I need to know if Z line parts 0 is not equal null. I'm really going all out on this one to see if I can pull these different parts all in one statement here. I'll probably end up testing this all along the way to make sure I'm getting what I think I'm doing. But I might as well give it a shot. It's easier to debug code than it is to not get it all written anyway. So, okay, so what we're looking for is both those line parts. Then here, we're going to put this, trim this, and then and trim this. Okay, so that should give us the various lines that have an equal sign in it. We'll have to do some more validation because I know there's going to be more equal sign than what we are already dealing with in this part. We'll be validating what this piece is and if it's being set or not, and then we'll be validating that list. But for now, since that's the only stuff that I have in there, what I want to do is we're going to take this response, we're going to pass it, we're going to call the code here. Before I even do that, what I'm going to do is we're going to see if we can't spit out each one of those arrays down here. So give me this part, copy that, and I just want to see that we're actually getting what we think we're getting at this point in time. So we're going to test out something else in here. What we want to see is we want to see JSON encode. Like I said, I moved my keyboard 1 inch and I can't type. Maybe if I move it 2 inches, I can type better than I used to, right? Okay, so I'm just going to spit this out in this format just so that we see per line what we're actually getting and see if we get anything familiar. Or if we get an error when we try this piece. Okay, we get the folder name, and we're not getting anything from this piece. Oh, I never called the function. That would help. Okay, so now we're going to take this up here, and we are going to this will be values equal that, and we're going to make this a lot easier by calling this equals this line here and then take this here. Okay, so we've kind of formatted this. Now we're grabbing the values. Now we're running that function, and we're gonna just see that it gets this far. I'm not doing anything with the values till they come back, and then we'll see what we're actually getting from it and make sure that we're getting what we're expecting. So here we go. Whoops, what'd I do? Sorry, meant to hit admin. Plugins, all plugins, and what do we get? Nope, there's an error. Okay, I figured I did. Let's just go check this real quick. Over here, we already had that line 40 error there. Okay, line 37 we're missing. Okay, file exists. That might have been before this. Unexpected this, which is line 37. And then, of course, because of that, line 38 doesn't know what to do. Okay, let's try that. Let's see where I did that. Line 37. Line 37 is blank. That may not be recent. Let's check it again by deleting our file. Easiest way to do this, delete the file and do a refresh on the page. It's going to tell us exactly what it was. Admin, plugins, user plugin, and there's our 500 error. Come in here, and what did we get? get plugin, undefined function, get plugin in there. What did I do? Did I forget to type the word this? Ah, yes I did. Meant to do that. I had it in my mind, then I worried about assigning it a value or what I was reading it in as and got past it. So, okay, so let's see if that calls the function like it should. And we now have 2 empty sets, which is not bringing back anything, but we didn't get an error. So let's see. Okay, so now that we've gotten that far, we're going to shorten this one line just because I end up grabbing it and using it in different places, but I'm going to make this from here to there, this variable, just so I know what I had. And okay, so from here, this should be giving us this response, and it should be an array of these 2 different line parts. But it didn't create that, which means the first thing is we told it to explode on this, and then we checked those values. Let me first check here. Let's kind of walk up the code. We'll first check here and see that we get the line. Line equals, and then we'll put the line right here. Okay, I know I'm leaning farther back and I'm probably farther away from my microphone. I want to make sure you can hear me, but yes, we are walking through some code. We're creating a process that's going to load the plugins, and then we'll start adding in hooks that people can use from their code to add different things. So we are making the function go. Okay, lines is an array. Oh, that's why. As z-line, got the wrong piece here. It's z-line, I just picked the wrong one. And did I do that there? No, I didn't. Okay, just tested it wrong. We're going to see what we're actually getting out of this file, and that is, whoops, sorry. The admin is a couple inches higher than the other thing. Okay, plugins, all plugins, and we have syntax error. Okay, it didn't like, oh, line equals that. Okay, so it doesn't like when I dump the line PH. Okay, so for each line, we're going to tell it. First thing I want to do is z-line. We're going to clean a couple things. We're going to take z-line equals string replace, and blah, 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 blah. I've never attempted to not read in the PHP tag. Let's see what we need to do here. I gotta think about that one for a second. It's not gonna spit this on the page because there's a PHP tag in the line. So the next best thing is get the lines with the equal sign in it, and in our files, let's make sure we didn't, oh yeah, we're on a different line than the PHP tag. Well, that'll just have to be a requirement, I guess, because I can't get away from that piece. Okay, so let's just check this. Here we go. And plugins, all plugins, and there we have nothing. We are not getting past the string position line because we should be getting something at this point. If string position is not equals false for an equal sign. I'm going to, this is going to break some of my code, but you know what, actually, let's go ahead and remark out from here to here, just to make sure it doesn't try to do that piece. You know what? I can go one more line up. We don't need to try to explode it at this point because we want to know if there's an equal sign in it. Let's see what we're getting. F5 and oops. That's why I keep clicking that, is because if I go too far, I hit the line that it pops up. Okay, it's not going to give me that unexpected token because it does not want to. We don't want to show a line with the. See, this is the part it needs. It isn't going to try to spit out on the console a line that has a PHP tag on it. So, oh, actually, we can get around that right now just to test. We can start with line 2. I know this is the worst way to do this, but okay, so if, just to do it for now, we'll put it in if I is greater than 0, then I'll do these lines, and I'm going to put the +1 part down here. I just want to see if we can get something back and see if we can start going through these pieces. Okay. PHP, let's see, plugin users. Gosh, it does not like what I'm trying to do there. Okay, it's just not going to enjoy when it hits these lines that have the... I wonder if... I can't grab the files. Okay, I need to figure out how I can get past that first line. For the moment, just for the moment, I'm going to I just want to see if some of this other stuff is working. So for the moment, I know this is not going to be a valid PHP file, but I want to see if it's going to grab the lines out of the file and if the rest of the code works. I know that's what I'm dealing with, is I'm trying to spit things onto the page that do not work. So let's try that. Okay, so now in my code, where did it go? Here. I should be able to, without doing this, and I just chopped out a line. Let's take that out too. Did I even get this correct? Let's see. For each goes to there. Yes, okay. So that one is there. Okay. So let's just try, see if we can get the lines on the page just so we get past it. This, and it's not going to like spitting these lines out on the page, but I want to make sure. Now, see, it still didn't like that. And I saved those pages. Okay, so that wasn't the piece that I was having a problem with. Console log. Oh, I know what it could be. String replace, and I think it's our end character. So if we get rid of /r, oops, /r, and if we get rid of /n, then I think we should be able to spit this line out. /n. Let's see if that does what we need it to. Okay. There it is. Okay, that's what we were hitting. Now I should be able to start manipulating the file and getting what we want out of it. So the first thing I'm going to check is to see if the string position has an issue. Only return the lines that basically have an equal sign in it. So See, we have these lines here. That's what we're getting. Okay, so F5, admin, plugins, all plugins, and no, we are not getting that. So why does the string... What do I do with my string position? What does it want? Single quotes around this? Am I doing this wrong? I don't think that's going to make a hill of beans difference, but we're going to check it anyway. Okay, plugins, all plugins. Okay, we're going to do this with the line regardless. For each line, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take out that z equals this. The reason is because then we're not dealing with it in the string position in the first place, and that should fix some of the problems here. That may be all that was wrong in the string replace. Okay, so F5, admin, plugins, all plugins, and we still do not have any values coming up there. So let's do this. Copy that here. And what I'm going to check this thing is we're going to check string position. We're going to see what this is returning. And we're just going to dump it out on there and see if that actually is giving us values we expect. Let's see. Plugins, all plugins, and string position is blank. Okay, string position. I want to see, is it just a notation issue that I'm having here? Plugins, all plugins, string position still. It never shows true, and there are lines that should be true, so something's going on with string position. Let's find out. Okay, if string position match is false. It's false if the string is not found. Well, let's check that. Let's see if we can get it to go to false. And let me see here. If I come in here, it should be... Ah, jeez. Okay, there it is. I was checking this backwards. My apologies. I wrote the sentence wrong, so now if I do, this is what I'm looking in, that's what I'm looking for. Now I should be getting, because I was looking for a value in an equal sign. Okay, jeez. Thank you. Okay, now I'm getting the lines. Yay. Okay, so finally, now we're getting those pieces back, and this is empty. Okay, so let's take it another step. So now that I know we're getting that far, I'm going to, let me remark this out. I'm not sure I'm done using it yet. We're going to explode it based on that. I probably did the explode command backwards also. Let's see. Delimiter and then the string. Okay, I'm good on that one. Might as well check at this point, right? And here we have this. And now I should be getting back an array of values, which we are spitting out to the console log. So let's see if that happens. Okay, so we are returning plugin multiplayer title. Yes, we are getting exactly what I wanted it to do. Author Edd. Okay, so we can clean that up because I don't want to have to cycle through the array. What I want that to be is response array and then each one of the items within it, so that we don't have a response that's per se this way. Okay, so I believe if I say that here, then here I should be able to say response, and then if I'm doing this right, we should be able to go here and here, and then equals that. That should get us to where we want to be, all in one statement, and get rid of that. Let's see, how'd I do? That should reconfigure it as one array of values. Okay, let's see what it does. Nah, I didn't think it was going to like that. Oh, trim. I don't have the other parenthesis around the trim. This piece here needs to be, oh, that's in the wrong place. The trim needs to be here so that we trim the name. Then it's the response equals that. Okay, let's try that. Nah, didn't like it. Do I have that? Do I have that? This Z response, and it's calling it by this object. Do I need to define each one of those possible values and only add the values that are defined? That is very likely. So what I'll do is response equals array. Let's do we're going to add in a few values here. We're expecting 3 values so at this time, so that's what I'm going to check for. Then we're going to test this to make sure it's one of those values, and then we're going to pass it in. So from our test here, we're looking for plugin. I need to explode it by this because we're not getting the word plugin. We're getting this with the word plugin. So I need to explode it by this value, and then so I can take the pieces that we need. But that'll be shortly. Let's figure this out. We're going to have plugin. We're going to have title and author. Okay. If this, it's not going to trim until we replace the other part. So let's see. Let's clean up this part. The item, actually we already called it line parts, so let's call it part. Part equals this, and we're going to do a replace. And we're going to get rid of that, and then we're going to take this value and we're going to trim it after that's gone, because after it's gone, then it'll trim off the front area. And then if You know what? We're going to do this in a nice, easy way for now. I'll do switch, and this will be Z part. And I'm going to do case, and I'm going to start naming them here. So plugin, case plugin, case title, case and author, and then we'll do a break after that, and these parts are going to be in here. Now, because I did it this way, instead of doing some big long if statement, all I have to do is add on any other value that I'm looking for, put it here, and then it's going to be Z part is here, and then that. So basically I am basing it off of the items that I add there are here, and now that should, let's see how it treats that. Now, okay, what did I miss? It's not going to like some line of this, so let's find it real quick. Okay, we're not in that problem anymore. Wow, yeah, it did not like line 65. Okay, expected this. Parsing value, let's see. Empty needle for string position, blah, blah, blah. Okay, some of this stuff was from before, some of this stuff is now, so let me clear that out. Let's do a refresh. I've made too many changes. Let's see how many of these it comes through. Ah, there it is. Okay, so it is just the one line. Line 78, unexpected that when it was expecting that. Okay, line 78. 78. Ah, trim, missed it on that one too. Okay, so we're trimming the answer off of there. The other part is, you know what? We're going to say z value equals, did I use z value someplace? Where did I use it? Okay, it's values and it's up there, so I'm good. So z value equals this. And the reason I'm doing that is because I also need to trim off. I trimmed this part to take the string replace off of here, and I need to do the string replace off of this value also to make sure that it doesn't have something lingering. And now that should, yeah, my parentheses are correct, and we should be assigning the value there. Okay, so let's try this one more time, or one more out of many more, whatever it takes. And now I get this nice plugin. Plugin is called that, title is that, author's that. I've formatted it the way I want to receive it. So based on that, now all I have to do is, first of all, we're going to leave that there for a few minutes. These values here are there, and I can create whatever I need it to create in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, I want the plugin, just like we did before. I could do it dynamically. That way we don't have to add them every time I add something down there. So let's say for each value, values, blah, blah, blah. I'm doing the same thing that I did down below, didn't I? See, I have to define the format of the response array values before I do. Well, see, all I'm doing really is adding in the folder name to what I do over there. So if I pass the folder name and have it assembled into here, I get my full value without having to try to response this piece here. And I can do, okay, I just figured out an easier way to do it. I'm going to do this, and we're going to take and pass plugin PHP and Z folder. Z folder's that one, And that's the plugin name. Now that we're passing Z folder to here, I'll send Z folder. And now all I have to do is pass. Since this is where we're defining it, we'll keep it all in one place. Okay. Actually, we can put whatever goes in there, we can put it in here. The only danger of doing that is it's outside the try loop, but or the try catch. Okay, so let's see, how do we do? Okay, admin, plugins, all plugins, and what I've gotten is nothing. What did I do? Did I just break it by trying to do that? Z folder comes in there. I'm returning. What'd I miss? Oh, wrong place. Sorry. That's why it broke it. File exists here, but then here is where I'm passing in that value. Sorry. Eyes crossed. F5. And admin plugins, user plugin, and okay, so we have undefined. What did we undefine about that? It's called folder, and it's called that. We should have had that. Okay, I'm seeing more than one thing here, so let's collapse this one. We don't need that one showing anymore. And we have it adding these values based on what it pulls out of the file. And then we are sending it back to here. And this is where, oh, I called it folder name here instead of folder. That would be the problem. Let's call it, it should be folder name. And let's see, did I do it correctly now? Okay, so now we get the folder name and we have this other data that we have appended to it. Now we can actually list out what we have, which will be, we're going to basically play around with the format at this other level. I'm going to clean up the code here a little bit since we pretty much have it doing what we want, and now it's just a matter of if we add additional lines. One more thing I want to test real quick is we wanted this line to be, this is a PHP file, so it needs to have a PHP tag, and that, and then here we're going to do the same thing. Oops, yeah. PHP tags around it, and it doesn't matter if there's extra lines because we should be automatically killing those extra lines. Okay, that's that. Okay, let's see, does it still work when it's a PHP file? Admin plugins, oops, all plugins, and there we are. We do still have it, so it's not a problem that it was a PHP file. Yay! Step one, we are getting a list and it's reading it from the file and it's giving us our different properties. So now we can play around with the format. We did the same thing with the user file. We did the same thing with the we've done it with a number of different files already. We already have the format even determined for us. If you look in here, we just returned we have, okay, I'll find it. We opened up the open users. There's a particular one we did. Nope, it's not open users. Open all users. And there it is. If we go here, I have a file format that I've already been using right here. So I'm going to just grab this, and that's another reason I put it in the bottom of the file for now. Okay, so we can, I'm going to just paste this in here. This is going to give us the now some format to work with. And the last part of this is now we can say which pieces that we want, and we can format this whole piece. First of all, it's plugin list and not user list. So we change that out. The other piece is this happens before the for loop. And actually we want the declaration sooner than later, so we'll do it up here. And then this closing piece, I like to balance it out on the same part of the if statement so the closing tag for the table comes through even if we don't end up with any records in the table. And then the last part is we are going to identify these different pieces as what they are, and then we'll do some cool stuff with it. So the first part is in the response. First of all, it's Z response. I don't want to leave. Okay, first of all, we don't need this or this. And also this, I want to make sure that it has a folder name for it to read anything. If it doesn't have a folder name, I don't want to parse it. So the folder name, it has to have a folder name, which means that we found it in a file in a directory and blah, 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 blah. The whole thing worked. Okay, so we have that. We have this. We have folder name. Oh, Z response, for just so we know, was the name of it. It's not response, it's Z response. And there's one here. Okay, so for the moment, this is just going to get us past this piece. Okay, we're going to take off, well, folder name we're going to keep here. Copy that, and we'll put it here. And then we have folder name is the same name as the plugin name in most cases, but we're going to start, actually we'll put the plugin name then folder name just for now. Oh, plugin, it doesn't like, ooh, the word plugin is a, okay, it seems to be a, we'll call it WTW plugin. Or we can just say plugin name. That would be friendly enough. I worry when plugin comes up as a different color. I don't want it to be a problem in a browser. So we're going to call it plugin name. And that means we're changing it here and here. And then in here, we're going to go with plugin name, plugin name. That'll read those in, and then we come back to here, and it's plugin name. I always watch for that. Whenever it's a file that ends up being some key name or something, then I tend not to want to use it. I prefer to have stuff that isn't going to be a conflict with a browser. And there's times where certain ones are conflicts with certain browsers. So whenever I spot them, I avoid doing it. And this, you know what? There's one more piece we'll put in here just to do it. Folder name, and then we have, in case we need to call it from somewhere, we're going to call it file name, and we're going to give it back the PHP file that we're working with. That'll be that'll help us with a couple things down the road. Okay, plugins, plugin PHP file, and we're going to call it file name, and that's what I did call it. Okay, so we're passing back this information, and here I'm just going to pass it here, and that gives us the right amount of columns. This will be file name. we're going to do some other stuff with this, but this is the first part. The next part is we'll be checking to see if they've already been loaded up to our database or not. And so that it just kind of helps with the different pieces. Next we're doing title, or yeah, title. And this one's going to be folder name. And finally, the first one is plugin name. Plugin name. Okay, and I reserve the right to rename these at any time, so if you're watching now and then all of a sudden you go to do it and I've documented some other version, which I will document, but I reserve the right to change what that's going to be listed out as that. Okay, plugins, all plugins, and we now have this as our listing. So we've gained the information that we wanted from each plugin. We gained it from the tables. We read in from the text files or from the PHP file on the server that they placed there. Now we know what is sitting in that directory that is the right format and can be loaded. The next part is to actually start looking at it, validating it, and loading the different pieces and working them as what are activated opposed to what isn't, just so that we have some type of cohesion between the two sides. So this will be all formatted. We'll play around with this stuff. We'll get some descriptions in here. We can add more fields to this. That isn't the issue. It's more about it's just more about setting it up so that we can execute code that was brought in by a plugin in the code that we're using on our screens and in our app. So, okay, so from there, that's actually pretty cool. That's actually pretty cool. We got this far. Been working on this for a couple hours, and I'm going to take a little bit of a lunch break and then jump back in on some more coding and stuff. But if you're just joining me and if you're hanging out with us or whatever, I want to thank you for hanging out. Also, click follow if you haven't already. You'll know when I'm online. I come on pretty much every day. But I am releasing this code open source on Monday. And what this code does is, if you picture WordPress, what WordPress does for traditional websites, WalkTheWeb does for 3D gaming websites. So it's a 3D gaming environment. It's designed to be able to do shopping carts, shopping, 3D shopping experiences. It does have 3D. You can have the VR headsets. It has camera views for the different headsets. We even have the blue cyan glasses, or the red cyan glasses, so that you can do it in that way, poor man's VR. And so we have all these different things in place. But this is a multiplayer environment that we can build and also host things on different servers. So basically, we are building 3D internet. This becomes a host, and then you can interconnect it where you have your website here that you have. We have a scene, you have buildings, and then you have things. Well, the scene itself, you can have a scene and then drop a building that's being hosted by another server onto your server, and you can go ahead and put them up there, and you can actually walk up to it and it loads, and you can walk away from it and it unloads. But basically, I've got a lot of good videos. Go check out my YouTube channel down below. You can see the link for that, and all kinds of cool videos talking about what it is and how it works. But picture Ready Player One. I built the framework that allows that to happen. So, okay. Thank you for joining me today. It's been a whirlwind today. We chugged through some things, got some new different type of coding in there. Had it read some files, but we progressed once again. We now have it reading in the plugin directory and grabbing which files are plugins. So we definitely, you want some glasses? Cool, definitely. Go to my www.walktheweb.com store, and you can basically buy glasses there. Order as many as you like. Okay, and I will talk to you later. Have a good day, and thank you for joining me.